Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, 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 morning. All right, what's happening? Let's see. We've got this guy, Mbulelo. There he is. See, check him out. He's ready to take the day on. Always full of energy and bounce and vim and vigor. We've got the beautiful Simphiwe, who is ready to take us forward into the 21st century, the second decade of the 21st century, where she is still by far the youngest and by far the most energetic. That's her. Look at her bounce around there. And you got me, old me. Yeah, hey. All right, let's do this. We've got much to do today. It is Wednesday. Oh, today, if you're one of those people who's into numbers, and by the way, we were talking to somebody the other day. I know that half our audience love this stuff and half the audience hate it. But numbers, numerology and all the rest of it. So today's a big day for those people because it's 02 02 2020. So if that matters, if it means something to you, then today's your lucky day. I went for dinner the other night, when I had my window broken in that car. And it's a couple, and the guy is totally obsessed when he says whenever he looks at his phone, he sees like 1919 and those kinds of things. And he thinks it's a message from the universe. And his wife is like, nah, it's nothing really. You're just lucky.
He sounds like those people that believe in 1111. Make a wish.
Well, yeah, but I mean, listen. As Hanan said on Monday, if he tells you to look for pink cars, you're going to see a lot of pink cars. If he doesn't tell you to and he says, how many pink cars did you see today? You're going to go, probably none. So it's also, you see what you're looking for. And the same goes for almost everything. So here, for example, here's Basitsana who says, my life number is a 1. I don't know what that means. There was a stage in my life where I was very into this stuff. I remember my uncle, someone gave me a book I've still got it, some book on numerology. And I read this thing. I ate it up cover to cover. Now, I've always been hugely skeptical of this stuff, and I continue to be. But I found it really interesting because, like astrology, they got these 12 archetypes, and those are the 12 things that all people in the world kind of conform to in some way, just because you were born under that constellation. Numerology has these numbers, and you figure it out. What it did for me is it certainly made maths more interesting, because I worked out how to reduce numbers much more quickly. You cross out the 9s because they don't really count, and you get through like figuring out someone's numerology. It's just kind of interesting. And maybe it gives you insight, maybe it doesn't. Maybe you think it's a superpower, maybe you think it's completely stupid. Either way, I think it's fun to just look at these things and check it all out. It's all part of being alive. And you can always say afterwards, that was some bullshit. Or you can say, yeah, I found that interesting. It's all in your head. It's like the pink cars. If you're looking for it, you will find it. If you're not looking for it, it's not going to make any difference to you. That's certainly the way I feel. Lots of people with lots of bounce in them this morning, like Simphiwe, Ridge Mbulelo says, Grand Rising, motherfuckers. That's exactly right. Shani and Martin and Tracy and Congo Chris says, howdy. This month, Mbulelo will find his true love, says Ruv1.
Are you sure?
Is this your month, Mbulelo? Is this going to be your
month?
Damn
right. Damn bloody right. Who knows,
Are you looking
if
for
any
it?
month, this is the second month in... Go ahead. Am I?
No, are you like even talking to someone? Is there, because you can't just one day be like, yeah, this is the month that I'm going to be in a relationship if there's nobody in sight. So is there potential somebody that we could get our hopes for to be like, okay.
Are you
maybe
aware of, in other words, are you aware of pink cars?
No. But who knows? You know what I mean? Got to be open to love. There's lots of people out there. There's lots of great people. I mean, all the great ones are taken. So there's lots of good options out there.
You think all the best ones have gone already?
Yes, if you're single, there's something wrong with you. Obviously.
No,
like, you have to accept that.
My very good friend is a guitarist. He lives in America now, and he used to say to me, all the best songs are already written, which is, he says there are only eight keys, and there's semitones on either side of it. And there are only so many combinations of those 8 keys that you can ever get. And he says all the best songs are already written. And I found that so depressing. I was like, no, we've got to still have a few good ones coming, right? I mean, this can't be the decade that the music died. And he said, no. He said all the best combos, all the best songs, all the best melodies, all the best harmonies, gone, done. But I think that's bullshit. Because since he said that, we've had some great songs. I know, I keep adding them to my Spotify and Apple playlists. Speaking of Spotify and Apple, this Joe Rogan and Neil Young thing continues. Now, apparently Neil Young is now actively promoting his Apple Music playlist and his Apple Music catalog, even though it doesn't belong to him anymore. He sold it, as I told you the other day. But somehow in his mind, Jeff Bezos or Amazon, it's not Apple, sorry, it's Amazon. His Amazon playlist, he reckons Jeff Bezos is a nice guy, but the Spotify dudes must be terrible. Meanwhile, Jeff Bezos is like a modern day slave driver. We've heard from people who work at Amazon, get like a toilet break for 4.2 minutes and they have to be back at their station. They work in factories and warehouses all over the world. I mean, what makes Neil Young or anyone else think that Amazon is better than, a company that allows Rogan to interview people about points of view that might not be the mainstream point of view? It's just such hypocrisy, such nonsense. Anyway, good luck to Neil Young. I had a really interesting conversation yesterday with Dorian Barrett, who of course do that 80s show here on Cliff Central. And they just love the 80s. They love 80s music. And they've been talking to all these 80s people all over the world, right? Like these are once very famous people like Neil Young, who used to be a big deal. They haven't spoken to Neil Young for the record, but other famous people from the 80s who, if you were an 80s music fan, you'd recognize the names, but otherwise you'd go, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And
that's
these people
most
are all
of the time.
Yeah, and they're all chomping at the bit to do concerts again. And now they're trying to talk. I don't know if they think, like South Africa's this pot of gold where we have all this money that we've hidden away. What we had, the Guptas have taken. I wish someone would tell them. But they're like, no, we'll come and do concerts there. I'm thinking, it's like Neil Young. I don't know if we could fill a stadium, guys. The 80s were a long time ago. The 80s were 40 years ago. You realize that?
Yeah.
Long ass time. I mean, a lot of people who were big fans of your music, and I know some of these people, and frankly, there's a lot of their music on my playlists. They're not alive, or they're not able to move very fast anymore. And COVID did a lot of damage to that community. They were like they were the vulnerable community in some cases. So as much as I would like to have conversations with these great stars from the 80s, and by the way, they do. They spoke just the other day to Leo Sayer, who I remember coming into the studio when Casper de Vries still had a show on Cliff Central. Leo Sayer, look him up. He came in and did an interview or whatever. I was like, this is one of my dad's favorite artists, back in the day. And he was more the late 70s than the 80s. But these were famous people in their time. And I look at Neil Young complaining and making this noise. It's probably the first time anyone paid any attention to him for like the longest time, right?
Yeah,
anyway.
No, well said. Listen, much like Neil Young, I was obviously at my prime in the 80s, being born in 1986. So with the love thing, mostly my range now is probably out of their first divorce. So I'm never gonna. Yeah, it's too late now to get like somebody at their prime. They will come scarred, ruined. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to date a 25-year-old. It's a waste of her time and my time. You know what I mean? So
absolutely,
it's over.
It's
over. I'm at a very awkward age.
That's Leo Sayer, by the way.
Oh. That jacket's unbelievable.
So the reason I even bring him up is Barrett says that he had an interview with him the other day, so he'll be putting him on that 80s show. So There's a little plug for them this morning. Very, very cool. So here's a big story from Sandile. Says, did you discuss Katlego Maboy being vindicated? It's a big deal.
Oh, yes. Boy. What happened now?
He has been found not guilty of any of those charges of abuse and violence and bullshit that he was exposed to. You remember when that whole story broke, and the fairly vicious, by the sound of things, current and now ex-girlfriend accused him of all kinds of things, wife, and she made him make this embarrassing and groveling apology, which went viral. And she was the one who shared all of that, by the way. So totally to humiliate him. Now, whether or not the guy had an affair or he cheated on her or not, to ruin a person like this is just so vindictive. And it has now subsequently been found through investigations and through all the proper processes that he had done nothing wrong. I mean, you judge him morally, but that's for him and, if you believe in it, God to deal with. Either way, he's not guilty of any crime, and he hasn't behaved so inappropriately that we should all shun him the way that he was shunned at the time. Remember, everybody just threw him aside. Outsurance kicked him out of their ads. He was canned from all those TV shows he was on. This is, by the way, one of the guys who in South African media, I never really had a relationship with Katlego. I never really knew him well. I'd met him a couple of times, but he was not a controversial person. He was not a dangerous person. He was the kind of guy who brands weren't afraid of him because he was a friendly, happy dude. He didn't go into any of the dodgy places that a lot of people go these days with respect to, politics, religion, sex, any of that stuff. And he was an all-round good guy. People loved him. He was on morning TV for how many years? And I say they, largely his ex-wife, but there were a whole lot of people who climbed on that bandwagon and ruined him. They tore up his life. He lost all of his jobs. He was forced to defend himself. I was just at that time, I remember it wasn't even that long ago, I was horrified. Do you remember, Simphiwe, what I'm talking about? Remember when it all happened? Big deal, right?
Yeah. And a lot of people were on his side to say, I don't understand why he's getting removed from his jobs and the ads, because this has nothing to do with work life. And then we started understanding that sometimes when you sign a contract, they kind of also want to own your appearance on social media. So if it's a negative one, then they're definitely going to remove you. But I'm very happy that he's been found innocent and he's not guilty. The wife was crazy for doing that nonsense anyway. And I hope that he also, counter sues her and she also goes through the most, because it was just unfair. He's such he comes across as a good guy. We don't know if he is.
He does. And I mean, nobody's perfect. So he may be, the kind of person who you don't necessarily want to marry. He may be the kind of person you don't want to be in a relationship with, but to ruin this guy's life, I think all of us agree, was just totally unnecessary. There's Katlego Maboy. Not a bad guy, friendly.
Friendly face. Had she accused him of stuff? Are we just saying?
Let me tell you the story here, because this comes from Drum Magazine, which is not the greatest source. No, but in this case, here we go. The domestic violence case against him has been dismissed. The most important thing to him, he says, is the well-being of his son. The court reached a verdict regarding the dispute between TV presenter Katlego Maboy and his ex-partner Monique Miller. The court ruled in Katlego's favor. A statement shared by Katlego on his social media read, so this is straight from the horse's mouth, TV personality Mr. Katlego Maboy was absolved by the magistrate's court in allegations of alleged misconduct made by the former partner, Ms. Monique Miller, in October 2020. The court agreed with the submission of a point from Maboy's legal team, ruling that there were no grounds for obtaining the protection order. So she obviously wanted a protection order against him. They said there's no need. This guy's not dangerous. Furthermore, the court has not made a finding on acts of domestic violence that were allegedly perpetrated against Ms. Miller, and as such, the matter has been dismissed. This is a victory for Mr. Maboy, who has maintained his innocence throughout the 2-year ordeal. He expressed his gratitude to close friends and family who support him during this time. Most important thing, he says, is the well-being of my son. And unfortunately, things have settled into a routine for him after being put through such a terrible and lengthy process. So he says, thank you to a whole lot of people. I may never know or understand the real motive behind all of this destruction and heartache, but right now I just want to focus on putting the little pieces of my life back together. I was unfaithful to my partner during a very important time of our lives, an act I regret to this day. We're currently undergoing an unfortunate and painful separation, which is being resolved through legal proceedings. As you can imagine, separations are difficult, and especially where there's a child involved. In light of the comments made against me, I'd like to state that I've never abused my partner. I've always and will always stand up for the abuse of women and children. In fact, the abuse of anyone for that matter. I had chosen to deal with this matter privately to protect and safeguard our child. At the end of the day, our child is all that matters. He's been very dignified throughout. Sure. Yeah, listen to this. Cordova Productions, which is responsible for the Espresso morning show, later released a statement that he will not be appearing on the show until further notice. Oh, that's great. Thanks, guys. We needed to hear from you, motherfuckers.
But why not? So why is he not appearing now? I don't understand. I thought you said he was a woman abuser. Now we've all agreed that we go by the law.
They should just put him straight back.
Problem? But my thing is, two things can be true, right? She might not be lying, but he didn't abuse her. Both of those things can simultaneously be true. Is that correct? Now, do we now investigate whether she was lying or not, or do we let it go? Because if she's lying, she needs to go to jail. Because once you tarnish a guy with that, let me tell you something. A friend of mine had to move, and we knew this girl was lying because she'd shown that pattern that we'd known her since primary school. He had to move countries after the lies that she said about him.
Right. That's what happens.
Do we now investigate? Because if she's lying, we can't have that.
Well, I just wonder what's going to happen to him. Why, he can't have his job back, for example. I don't even know if that show is that show still going? Is it still on the air?
I think so. I don't know. I don't watch much
TV.
But he must make it back onto the Outsurance ads. They've been horrible without him.
They should retire. I mean, they've had Ilana Africa, who, God bless her. I mean, I know Ilana. She's also a friend of mine, and she's a nice person. But those ads are just awful. It's not her fault. She doesn't script them. But Jesus, they're bad. I mean, anything. I'd rather have Katlego sitting in the car with these fat middle-class people saying, I chose Outsurance because I get 50 Rand back every third month. I fucking love it. I love my Outsurance so fucking much. I love them so much. That's my favorite ad. I mean, like, have him sitting there going, tell us all about, because he's always smiling. He's like the Peter and Dora of the next generation, right? He's like, tell us all about how much you love Outsurance. And now all of us sitting there trapped in our living rooms during lockdown, having to watch these ads are like, oh, yeah, tell us how much you love your Outsurance. And then they go, I just love it. Before I had Outsurance, my husband was a prick. My children hated me. My house was a mess. There were feces all over. It was just a disaster from morning to night. I drank nonstop. But as soon as I got Outsurance, then my whole life got better. Everything improved. My skin cleared up. I got thin. I started having sex with my husband. My children stopped fighting with me. It was fucking fantastic. Outsurance, I love you. It was so great. So you say better, but just give him his job back. Come on, people. Really?
Yeah, I'd love to see some behind the scenes stuff where the guy's like, with my new car, blah, blah, whatever the rate is. I go, Katlego, you were right to move on from her anyway. She was, that chick wasn't even your level, but like, look at you. Anyway, thanks for the great rate, mate.
I'd love one of those people in like an Audi A3. They're driving through Joburg and, they bump every now and then because there's a pothole. and they're sitting in the car with Katlego, and they turn to him and go, "Yeah, my car's great, my insurance is great, everything's lekker in my life, hey Katlego. But tell me, how's that bitch of an ex-wife of yours?"
That's the one. That's the one.
Come on, Outsurance, have some balls and do that ad. I will swear to God, I'll change my insurance. Jesus. Anyway, Rebellious Ruth makes such a good point. She says that Katlego is the black version of Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Ooh.
That is such an excellent point. In fact, I'm going to find a picture of Joseph Gordon-Levitt and I'll show you how right she's exactly right.
I was going to say, Katlego is just the right amount of threat to everyone. He's the perfect amount of white to be palatable, the right amount of black for people not to say, ooh, Zenzumlungu. He's just in that purple spot. You know what I mean? Whereas,
you mean he's totally non-scary to everybody?
Yeah, he's super, like, I don't know what the term is.
Yeah, okay, well, let me show you a picture of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and then you can compare. That's such a very good observation from Rebellious Ruth there. I mean, that's spot on. So Joseph Gordon-Levitt, famous actor in Hollywood, and he does, okay, so here's Katlego, right? Got him?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Here's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Isn't that
wow? Yeah,
that's amazing, right? Look at him. Look at him.
Exactly it.
They're the same person. This just proves to you racist bullshit. They are the same person. I guarantee you, Katlego either wipes off the brown makeup or Joseph Gordon-Levitt puts the brown makeup on when he wants to be Katlego. And look at this. They're the same guy.
Yeah. Well, I've never seen them in the same room.
I've never seen them in the same room. Exactly.
Yeah.
That proves it. There we go. So well spotted there, Ruth. Yo. Anyway, I didn't want to go straight into that, but, you know, I think Basitsana brought it up. So there it is. Now we're talking about it. So a couple of comments here. She is definitely liable for something, says Tracy. Wasting the police's time and crying wolf is a crime. Well, I've always said if you're going to allege something very serious like rape or abuse and it turns out not to be true, you go to jail for the same amount of time that person would have gone to jail. Sorry. That'll make it much, much more serious. When an allegation like this is made, and they should be taken seriously, they will be taken seriously by both sides. So there we go. Moonchild says she must be held accountable. Well, that's what Simphiwe says. I don't think anyone will get away with it. Change that thing anymore. Oh, that change that thing. That's their line, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Gareth, every time you do that Karen voice, you sound like my aunt. It's uncanny. Not sure what you're saying. Oh, it's not what you're saying. It's just the voice. I don't even know whose voice I was doing. I was doing kind of a middle of the road.
Just a generic yenta.
Yeah, sort of the typical people who appear in those Outsurance ads. Katlego must just forgive and move on, says Yonda. Unfortunately, she's still the mother of his child and he has to deal with her. He needs to just go with a different woman every time he goes to her. That's so funny. That's so great. Anyway, by the barometer, Fauci is definitely Mother Teresa's son. All right, maybe that's also a comparison. All right, some interesting stuff to look at this morning. First of all, Simphiwe is looking for new friends. Not surprising. She's lost all her old friends at New Year, which is true, right?
Yeah, that is true. That is true. After being the only one who got kicked out.
Right. So just like everybody on the show yesterday helped me to get better sleep, and by the way, I did last night, taking some of your advice. It is now Simphiwe's turn for some advice. She's looking for new friends because 90% of her current friends are in relationships. Are these people, Simphiwe, who, I hate this, by the way, when you have a friend and they are suddenly dating someone and they just disappear off the radar. And then as soon as they break up, they come knocking on your door. Hey, Simphiwe, where have you been? I've missed you. This used to happen to me a lot in my 20s. There were a couple of my friends, and they were really good people. They just had this bizarre and irritating knack of completely ignoring all of us as their friends while they were in a relationship. They were completely sucked into the relationship that they were in, and they just forgot they had friends. Then, when the relationship ended, as they inevitably do, this person or these people came running back and expected everyone to just stop what they were doing and welcome them back with open arms, which mostly we did. But still, don't do this. Just be the same as just please, can I? The best people I've ever met, people who are the same
Look at
in a
Mbulelo
relationship.
already.
In a
You are not
relationship,
realistic. You must
as they
be
are out. Come on.
Komlade. You are not realistic. There's no woman letting a guy be the man dem when they're in a relationship. I don't know anyone who can still be the man dem when they coupled up
So
now.
are you blaming the women here? This is very misogynistic
No,
of you.
well, I can only see the world through my own eyes, and I just understand that when you're with the woman, you're gonna have to change. You can't be the man dem now. Football, Saturday, Sunday. You know what I mean? Guys, where you? Pub. That's not how it works. We know that because everything comes with a sacrifice. Relationships are sacrifice. And also, what it does tell, and I think it was true with me, when you're with that guy, I don't like who you are. So, yeah. You know what I'm saying? And people are
So
lying.
you are the problem. You're a problem friend. That's the issue. Let's deal with that. But I think for me, it's just like, since most of my friends are in relationships, and I get it. Like when you are dating someone that, before we used to go out for coffee every weekend. Now we can't do that. Maybe we go out once or twice a week. It's just a bit tiring when you look at your friends and you're like, oh, I used to hang out with you. Oh, can't do that now because you're all booed up and you want to chill with your person or you want to go out. And I'm also not one of those people that want to chill with your partner. So, hey, like, guys, I'm looking for new friends. If you like my vibe, want to chill with me, let's get to know each other because I can't.
Why don't
can't
you
do the
get in a
whole-
relationship and then you can keep hanging? Because couples hang out with
that's
couples.
So Stink Mina has given Simphiwe a name, SIM card. That's
No,
what
I
they
don't
call
like that
him.
name. I'm
They're calling you SIM card.
no,
So
I'm,
Stink Mina is exactly the same thing as Mbulelo says here.
Yeah,
why don't you just get a man? Simple.
It's the only the older you get as well. So now you're getting into those late 20s and it's not going to turn around now. This complete life of someone being in a relationship, out of relationship, it's over now. Once people are in relationships now, especially at your age, they can now start to afford to go to artis, or I don't know what couples do. Now you're out, chief. Now you're out. Oksala. Your only choice, if you like your friends, get booed up. Otherwise, cry in your pillow alone. You know what I'm saying? Sorry, it's tough, but it's true.
Woody says get an ad in the yellow pages, and you
do they still exist?
I don't know. Is the yellow pages still a thing?
I don't know, but that's awesome.
Right at the beginning of Cliff Central, they used to sponsor something on the leadership platform. So they were around 6 or 7 years ago.
Sure.
Maybe that's where you should be placing your ads. Eh? Yeah, Simphiwe. There we go. Now
I don't think anyone would see them. Like, we're in the 21st century, 2022. Who would see yellow pages? I'd have better luck on Tinder or something. Like, yellow pages.
Well, maybe there's some kind of friend zone Tinder out there. That's exactly what you just said, Simphiwe. There's a Tinder maybe for just friends. Yeah, if you just. So I always think it's good to have a mix of friends who are of different ages, different backgrounds. I'm not a fan of diversity for the sake of it, right? Because I always think that the in any given situation where they've done tests around whether it works or not, it's a society or it's a company or it's a movement, whatever it is, diversity for its own sake is probably not the right thing. It never leads to happiness. You need to have diversity, but with merit baked into it. If merit isn't there before diversity, diversity is worthless. If you just have a bunch of people just because they are black or because they are old or because they are young or because they're rich or they're whatever, that's a terrible reason to have people around. But if you have merit first, like this person is really, really fun, this person is really sensible, this person is very intelligent, this person is very hilarious, then you choose also from that pool of merit, you then choose as diverse a crowd as possible, then you're going to win. And I think with friends, that's important too. You need to have those friends who are there for just for the good times. You need to have those friends who are there for the emotional stuff. You need to have those friends who are there for the active things. You have to have those friends who are there just to chill, and you mix them all up, and that's where you get interesting stuff. Anyway, so I don't know how we got onto this, but there should be an app where you can choose these friends, and you can redo it. Get those 90%, she says, Simphiwe, of her friends are now in relationships, and that means she's not seeing them at all. Dogozo says, I had a friend like that once, disappeared from my friends for 3 years. It got weird once we broke up. Yeah.
But also, I don't like what these people do in relationships, the ones that disappear, because you only come back when things are not good. So I only hear the negative stuff, like from the girlfriend. Like, I have girlfriends, and they'll be like, he bought sneakers on my birthday, da-da-da-da-da. And you're like, okay, cool. They disappear. 3 months later, he did this. And all that's going on is like, I have a track record of all the negative. And in my mind, I'm like, why are you still with him, dude? Like, you've been pushing 3 years, but you haven't broken up with a red flag. Why? So don't do that. Also, don't come to me for advice. Just don't do it. I don't want to hear it. No.
But you have to accept your role now. You know, as single people, we're extremely selfish. You're on the bench now, Chief. No, but seriously, like, I know what you're going through, but it's life. Like, once somebody chooses a partner now, you need to realize your role's evolving now. We're going to call on you for the cup games, and maybe when we're playing second division, we now you're not coming for the World Cup final.
So yeah, I mean, it's also inevitable, right? I mean, you're going. Some friends are just going to part ways with you, and you're going to move on. I mean, I remember there were some friends I had at varsity, and I was like, I'll never not be friends with these people. Now I don't think I've thought about them in years.
Oh, my course. Jeez, yeah, there we go. Maybe that was them haunting you from the grave.
Disgusting. All right, well, coming up this morning, we've got Revix later on. We're going to check in with Chris Beamish, who is from Revix. Why Sean is avoiding us at the moment? Maybe because the Bitcoin price is still...
Probably in Italy skiing, that guy. Remember last time he was in Italy in December?
That's right.
And it's a good... Remember, now February is the best skiing and the cheapest skiing. Because now the kids are back at school in Europe. Yeah.
Mbulelo, just please, for the sake of all those unfortunate and poor and miserable people who've never been skiing, just explain how fantastic this is and how it's the best holiday you'll ever have. Because I was talking to some people the other day. In fact, no, it was during December, so it wasn't the other day. And I was saying to them, you will never have as good a holiday as you do. And I tried to explain it to them. I don't think they entirely understood it. But man, if you ever get the chance to go on a skiing holiday, don't just give up everything. Leave the children in foster care. Dump the partner if they're not keen. Take complete strangers if you have to, if your friends are being boring. But you will have the best holiday of your life in the snow. Right?
And nothing comes close. I've done Yacht Week, Tomorrowland. You know, I've really pushed it out there in my time when I was cool and young, like Simphiwe. Nothing is close to 2 weeks at a ski resort. Nothing is close. There isn't a holiday that you could even call second. Like the rest of them are just out of it, you know? Not Mauritius, not, you know, think of the ones you think are the Instagram stuff. When you are in the groove at a proper ski resort and there's 2 weeks and you're in there and you meet all these people and you're doing it right, it's like it's like the rules of the world don't exist at ski resorts. It's just so nice. Everything's a vibe constantly for 2 weeks, and possibly the most fun thing in the world is what you do during the day. Yes, après ski when it bangs as well, like when it's on. I've never with all Coachella, whatever else I've done, nothing comes close to this. Yes, ski resort. Do it. Oh my God. And it has to be European or American and proper.
I just want to quickly go back to Simphiwe's nicknames for this morning, because a lot of people are saying SIM card. Then someone says, Sanele says, if Simphiwe doesn't like the name SIM card, we could change it to SIM swap.
Y'all try me. Like, y'all.
Have some sympathy. Guys,
that's awesome.
Carl says, Gareth, you're too old for new friends now. Whoever you have now, that's who it is. You can lose some, but you cannot gain more over the age of 30. Sorry, there's no time for that. I don't agree. That's bullshit. I've met Simstress. Here we go. Simstress. Hang out with the... I love these names. You guys are just the best. All these names for Simphiwe. Simstress, hang out with a coupled people. It's fun. You can poke at their togetherness and then leave them questioning their relationship. They'll spend more time with you without their partner. When a SIM card, you are the crying shoulder. Yeah, that's about right. Don't give people in relationships advice, says Basitsana. Yeah, because then you become part of the enemy contingent.
Oh, absolutely.
And then I get mad when you don't take my advice. So no, for my own health, please don't come to me, guys. Don't come to me. And I'm also biased because you're my friend. So,
but would you be open to getting into relationships in Simphiwe to solve your dilemma? Because obviously you're either a little bit upset at that. Why can't I be in a relationship? With people, we're always communicating. So a little bit of you is like, damn it, why can't I be in a relationship? Or the other side is, I don't like your man. And then now that's a whole different thing Dr. Hanan would have to help us with.
Yeah.
Am I open? I think I am.
Okay, open to the market. Come on, Simphiwe.
He's opened the sluice gates.
Yes.
I am open to, but I'm not in a rush. It's not something that I'm like looking at the clock now and I'm like, if I'm not in a relationship by this time, let's take it. I enjoy my singleness. But if Mr. Somebody comes along and he ticks my boxes, sure, why not?
And just to be on Simphiwe's side, she already drives a nice German car. She already has the best cell phone you can have. So you know what I mean? Simphiwe is not going to be pitching up, making you look bad, whoever you are. You know what I mean? She's going to pitch up. She does the sunglasses thing out of her like super cool car. You know what I mean? She's got the cell phone, the handbag. So
yeah. Well, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave that behind because there are headlines. I just want to squeeze one or two of these in before we get to Chris at Revix. So Whoopi Goldberg's in trouble now. There's every day there's someone who gets into trouble for a comment. Whoopi is facing a backlash after she said on The View that the Holocaust was not about race. Here's what she said. This is unbelievable. She said, Nazi genocide of the Jews involved two groups of white people. So it wasn't about race. But do you know what genocide means, Whoopi? Genocide is, or ethnic cleansing, is precisely that. It is targeting at people for their race, their ethnicity. And to you, and I wonder how this has happened, but the American left seems to think that Jews are not a distinct group from the rest of white people. They seem to think that the Jews have had the same experience that, say, the French have had in history, where it is absolutely impossible, unless you've picked up more than one history book, to believe that the Jews haven't had a particularly shit time over the last 2,000-3,000 years. And Whoopi Goldberg is just showing an enormous amount of ignorance that is not specific to her, by the way, but it's specific or general in all of America's left, white, black, old, young, whoever they may be. They all seem to think that the Jews are not a distinct race. I've been reading a really interesting book. I'm going to see if I can find it here, but by David Baddiel. He's a well-known personality in the UK. It's called The Jews Don't Count. And it's precisely about this, that the left in America and all over the world, in fact, including people like that horrendous Jeremy Corbyn in Britain, anti-Semitism has become acceptable again in some of those circles. And those people don't have any sympathy, understanding, or sensitivity to the experience of Jews through history, who are certainly in the category of among the world's most prejudiced against people. And this is just typical. And you see, Whoopi's not a special case. She's actually kind of a template for many people there. She apologized, but in a muddled attempt to clarify her comments, ended up having to say sorry a second time. This is happening quite a lot. Anyway, she's had to apologize a second time now, and she may even be off The View this week because, if they take her away for a little while, people will forget. Co-host Joy Behar pointed out that the Nazis said the Jews were a different race. Well, that's the whole point, is the oppressor in this case. They didn't look at the Jews and go, fellow white people. Otherwise, why would they have put them into concentration camps, killed 6 million of them, and referred to them in terms which are clearly racist. You know what I mean? This shouldn't be hard work for Whoopi to consider. But of course, she seems incapable of putting herself in anyone else's shoes, which I'm not surprised by, because as we've discussed many times, all those women on The View, all of them are completely out of touch with reality. That is such a yenta at Tasha's meeting every single day on television that I'm not surprised. They're really the most awful. That's the most awful show on television at the moment. I got to say, like, if you put me in reruns of The View for 6 hours, I'd kill myself.
Sure.
Horrendous television show. So Whoopi Goldberg being forced to apologize. That's one of the headlines this morning. One of the other stories, Wordle. Can we talk about Wordle for a second? Because I was introduced to Wordle yesterday. Do you guys know what this is?
Yeah. And
you also got it yesterday.
Yes.
All right. So Wordle is this, it's an app if you want to download the app, but it's an online game. It's a 5-letter word, and you get, I think, 6 chances to figure out what the word is. And it's one word for everybody in the world on that day. Yesterday's was?
Those, I think.
Those, that's right. That's what it was. Because I put down, so what it does is you'll put down your 5-letter word. I think mine was right. And then it said I got the H and the T. So the rest I could disregard. Then I put down thanks, and it said, okay, the T and the H come first. So I was like, okay, there's no A because I've tried that one already, and there's no I. So it's got to be some other vowel. So I said O. I got that one right. And then S and then E. And that means I got the word that everyone in the world was looking for yesterday after 3 tries. Now, what you want to do, ideally, is guess it either the first time or the second time. Then you're a super genius. But it's the most addictive game in the world right now. And everybody's talking about Wordle. So if you haven't tried it yet, go and try that out. Wordle. And you can figure out what all the hype is about. You enjoying it, Simphiwe?
Yes. I also got introduced to it yesterday, and it's like going to be one of those games that I'm very much addicted to. I can just see myself like, because you can, once you get it, you can't like play another round, like it's done for the day. That, I think that's the beauty of it, is that you'll give yourself 5 minutes, you figure it out. If you don't get it, you don't get it. Forget about it.
Right.
So, and then when you do get it, you feel like, yay.
I know,
and
it's
you
fun.
can go about your day. Like, I love the fact that you don't need to stick around and try to get the other. No, you're done. One word.
Absolutely.
One word a day. Great. I love it.
One word a day. So it's new, and you can't do more than one word a day. So you just got to settle with that one. It's like you ration yourself, you figure it out. Anyway, it is time now for us to check in with Revix. Every week we do a little bit of a dipstick test to find out what's happening in the world of cryptocurrencies. And of course, this is another week where we can look at those developments, and there is a lot to get into. Chris Beamish is an investment analyst, and he is from Revix, and he's here to tell us what's happening this week. Of course, in a market that you don't know and that we've never really seen before in all of human history. Don't guess, but diversify. Revix allows you to effortlessly own a diversified portfolio of the world's top cryptocurrencies, which automatically stays up to date with the ever-changing market. Right now, I see Bitcoin at $38,484, Ethereum at $2,761, and there are a bunch of others that we could look at with Chris. But let's welcome him to the show. Hey, Chris, how are you?
Good morning, Gareth. Great this morning, and thanks very much for having me on. Excited to be here.
Cool, man. Good to see you again. First of all, tell us what you think of the last 2 or 3 weeks. A lot of people have been, in inverted commas, jumping in or out of the market, depending on whether they think there's a buying opportunity or whether they're terrified that they've lost all their value. It did dip quite low. It may go back up again. Nobody obviously knows these answers. Otherwise, they'd be putting sure bets on things. But what do you think all of this movement is caused by?
Jeeps, yeah, a lot of people been jumping in and out of the market at the moment. What's causing it at the moment, it's a bit odd. We're at a bit of a crossroads with Bitcoin, to be honest with you. The behavior of Bitcoin's changing quite a lot. I mean, up until the 2020 Bitcoin cycle, the Bitcoin price moved relatively predictably in line with the 4-year halving of the Bitcoin mining reward. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's about you basically receive 6.25 Bitcoins for running software that secures the network. And for every 4 years that halvens, it decreases the inflation rate or supply rate of the network. And when that's met with a lot of demand, the price is obviously gone upwards. And in recent times, the market's matured and actually changed quite a lot, with a lot more kind of institutional players coming into the game. A lot of them seeing it as an inflation hedge. I mean, for example, the current Bitcoin inflation or issuance rate is currently 1.7% compared to the US, which has seen 40% of all dollars created in the last 20 months.
Right.
So there's a lot more at play here.
But that's also one of the reasons people like Bitcoin, is because there is a limited amount of it. So there's only ever going to be that much Bitcoin. And obviously, we're all going to be carving smaller and smaller pieces out of it if you come into the market now. Those people who bought early have obviously won big time. But obviously, when the Bitcoin price goes down like it has, that does represent a buying opportunity. What do you feel people may be doing, especially those Bitcoin maximalists, as they call themselves? I bumped into one in the lift yesterday. What do you think they think? They look at this and go, let's buy.
I mean, Michael Saylor, the CEO of MicroStrategy, is one of the most prolific cyber hornets or Bitcoin maximalists, and I think he stocked up yesterday with another $25 million purchase. So ultimately, the long-term goal is just to keep on stacking as much Bitcoin as you can for a lot of these guys. So every time the price dips, or even just weekly or monthly, they just carry on buying. They don't really see the day-to-day price movements as an issue.
All right, so I'm going to pose some difficult questions to you, but you're an investment analyst, so you can probably help us out. If I were a new investor and I were interested in crypto, would this be the best time to get started? And what is the best way to get started? If you gave advice to, your little niece, and she was maybe interested for the first time ever, she's got $500 in her pocket, what should she do? How do you get in?
That's a fantastic question. With all the market hype recently, I've had quite a lot of people asking me that, and no one really knows where to get started. I'm no financial advisor, but I can certainly speak from personal experience. So I'd say the best way is to actually just start slowly, dip a toe in the water, invest a very, very small amount, just so that you can experience the volatility and start the learning process. I mean, the first rule of investing I was taught was to start investing in something that you understand. So we should all start to try and understand it there. For most, it'll seem very daunting and complex at first, but there's some great resources out there to help you understand exactly what Bitcoin, blockchain, and all these crazy altcoins actually are. I mean, for example, a blockchain is a system which records a whole bunch of transactions. And if you think about it, it's kind of like accounting software. So it's good to kind of understand and go from there. And when I say buy a very small amount, people, please don't invest your life savings. Invest a very small amount at first. And as you educate yourself, you'll find your feet. Our aim at Revix is to obviously empower everyone to become wealth managers. And you certainly need to understand what you're investing in order to do so.
All right, another hypothetical. If I were a not so experienced investor, what are some of the easiest mistakes people make in crypto, and how can you avoid them?
Sure. Another great question. I've certainly made a few mistakes myself, but I guess I can point out some of the most obvious ones, or some of the most detrimental ones. Let's kind of continue on what I was saying. The first one I'd probably mention is over-investing at first. A lot of people rush in and they drop their life savings on this, and then they end up not being able to sleep or pulling the money out after a crash, and it doesn't go well. So don't invest more money than you can afford to lose, or go without, and don't invest in amounts of money that you'll lose any sleep over, for sure. Another one would probably be not trying to trade the market or trying to beat the market.
Right.
A lot of people end up thinking they're smarter than the market, and trying to continuously buy and sell to get better prices. I'll tell you a statistic that about 99% of people who try to trade lose money. So please don't try and trade people. You're up against some of the smartest people in the world, and you're very likely to lose money.
And really, don't panic sell. This is a big mistake people make, is that they panic sell, exactly. And then you will really, you only realize the loss when you sell, right? So if you bought in, and let's say you bought 100 rands worth of something, and a week later it's worth 80 rand, and then you sell it, you've absolutely lost 20% of your investment. But if you hold on to it and it goes back up to 100 later on, or it goes to 120, you never realized that loss, even though at some point it was at 80. This is a simple.
Precisely. So I'd actually add to that and say, please take your emotions out of the equation, because a lot of people end up they get very emotional and they end up buying and selling at the worst times. And I mean, the market's designed that way, that you feel super happy and super likely to invest when prices are sky high, and they've been going up recently, and quite the opposite. And you're super sad and very likely to sell when prices are very low, when in actual fact, that's not what you should be doing at all. Try and keep your emotions out of it, for sure.
So just one last thing. We've spoken with Sean about this a couple of times, and people talk about a long-term investment strategy. What is your feeling on that, and what is the advantage of a long-term investment strategy as opposed to just trading the market, and as you said, 90% of the time not coming off very well?
Cheapest. I'd say just having a long-term kind of strategy for just about anything in life is really good. But it's critical with regards to investing to think long-term. I'd give yourself some time, to be honest. The main reason for that is because of I believe it was Einstein that called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. And to kind of illustrate the power of compound interest, I'll give you a bit of an example here. If I give you two choices, choice A, you receive $1 a day, or choice B, you can receive 1 cent that doubles every day. Most people would end up choosing choice A because it's 100 times the amount of money initially. But just after 12 days, the cent actually overtakes the dollar in value. And after 28 days, the cent is actually $1 million and the dollar is only 28. So that's the real power of compound interest. And compound interest is really it's like the secret sauce of investing. So most of all of the most successful investors in the world tend to maximize their investments by compounding their returns over time. And the next thing you can obviously add with compounding is time. The longer you can compound, the better, and the more your investments will grow. So, I mean, the natural question most of your listeners will be asking is, how do I stay invested for longer? Firstly, like I said earlier, invest an amount that you can live without. By investing a smaller amount initially, you end up not being too worried about it, and you can actually just leave your investment there and let it compound over time. I mean, for example, like you said earlier, some guys bought a little bit of Bitcoin years ago, forgot about it, and then woke up one morning to realize they were millionaires. And I mean, it's amazing. But, secondly, I'd probably say certainly diversifying, because I mean, if you own a basket of assets, which is one of Revix's main selling points about bundles, if you own a basket of assets, you reduce the risk and the volatility, which can make you be able to stomach it a lot easier. It allows you to invest for a lot longer. And I mean, this all sounds amazing, and I'm sure your listeners are wondering where you can invest in Bitcoin. I mean, you mentioned Ethereum, Solana, all of that stuff. But more importantly, the diversified crypto bundles, all of this for the long term. But luckily, Revix offers all of this and more.
Well, absolutely.
So I'd recommend heading over to our website. I mean, we're running a pretty cool promotion at the moment. It's all about financial fitness, which encourages you to engage in healthy investing habits, referring friends, and as you kind of engage in more of that, you earn Revix rewards, which are redeemable for Bitcoin.
Fantastic. Go along to Revix.com, sign up today. It is free to sign up. You verify your ID, and you add some funds, whatever you think you are comfortable with, and then choose the bundle of your choice, see what happens. You may see it growing. You may see it pulling back a little bit sometimes. You've just got to try and ride that wave. And if you don't get in, you'll never know. So give it a go. Thanks very much, Chris. Nice to meet you, and nice to have you on the show this morning.
Chris, before you go, I just wanted to. Sorry, Gareth. When you guys interview, do you have to be like handsome face at Revix, or what's the story? Because you're the third guy now who's been on here. All of you guys, I forget what the other gent's name is. So is there like a process, and is there a competition for the most handsome guy at friggin' Revix? It's ridiculous, dude. Unbelievable.
I appreciate it. I'm sorry that everyone has to look at me instead of Sean and Brett. 5:30 a.m. cold shower, a little bit of a coffee goes a long way.
Right. Okay. Well,
don't worry. Sean's not avoiding you guys. I haven't seen him in the office recently. He might be skiing in France, though. We've been doing renovations.
I know these types of guys. I told you. I know guys like Sean.
All right, Chris, I'm going to let you get back to sorting out your investments and analyzing them and making sense of them for the rest of us, and we will catch up with you next week. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on. Cheers, guys.
Right. There's Chris Beamish from Revix.com, Revix.com. By the way, Dr. Robin says Wordle isn't an app. There is an app called Wordle, but it isn't the real deal. It's so don't you just go and just Google it. Just Google Wordle and you'll see it'll come up. That's how I found it. I'm going to do today's one just now. Just see whether I can do it in less than 3 turns. How many did it take you, Simphiwe?
Well, we did it in the office as a group effort. So it took us, I think, also 3 tries.
Okay.
The first word was house. And then I think from there we were like, oh, okay, this is not bad. But everybody was huddled up and it was really nice. I can't wait to try it today.
Very good. All right. Well, it is almost 7 o'clock and we've got lots of other good stuff still to come. We've got Beyond Madness that we've got to tell you about. There's also an episode of Blind History on the way for you. A real evil son of a bitch. Maybe Whoopi Goldberg would do well to listen to this episode of Blind History this morning. I'll tell you who it is in a short while. It's going to be really good. And stick around for a whole lot of other really interesting, useful info. There's some headlines. We've got plenty to talk about, and we'd like to hear from you. You can get hold of us by just dropping a comment in the comments section on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe this morning and every morning. And every time you like, every time that you add someone else, you tell someone else to join us and subscribe, everything gets better. It's like a world where you put something in and you get something out. It's just magic. This is the real investment that you are making, is in your time. We are lucky to have you invest your time with us. That's all coming up in the next little bit. It is 7 o'clock, cliffcentral.com. Good morning, everybody. Let us know what you're up to. People said that he was basically Hitler's 2IC. And he built up the Einsatzgruppen and he built these extermination camps.
The world's greatest mass murderer. He enjoyed chess, the harpsichord, stamp collecting. He set quotas for the concentration camps of how many people you need to kill.
He went and looked through a little keyhole as they gassed a number of people.
Him and his mistress sitting drinking tea and with cutlery made from bones.
Yo, I put it like wow, this that sound. These oaks don't work hard like me, I hope they know by now.
Right, it is Wednesday morning at cliffcentral.com. It's just after 7. Loads of things that we still have to see today. It feels like we're shopping, but that's probably because we're filling them up with so much stuff. And it's not like there's ever been a day where we get here and we go, the hell are we going to talk about? You know, it's bizarre, but we've apparently got this World Bank 11 billion rand loan. You heard about this?
When did we wait? What?
Yeah, our treasury explained that the World Bank has just given us a loan of 11 billion rand, and it says that
So whose account is it going into? Whose name is it going into?
That's what I'm worried about. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana said there were no specific conditions attached to this loan.
Yes, there were.
Yeah, I'm sure there were. The ANC is just going to ignore them, right?
My sister.
Yeah, because they're already trying to see. They're trying to see who's getting the money. That's the issue. They weren't looking at the T's and C's. They weren't paying attention to actually what's happening right now. All they're thinking about is, I have an uncle. It's okay. I can give him 1 billion. When I can give you 2. Like, you know what? Okay, my whole family is set for life. Like my whole that's what they're thinking in their minds. Right. Instead of looking at the actual thing that they signed. Guys.
Can we turn Mbulelo's jacket into an NFT, says Congo Chris. Do you think it would be worth something? Very loud. Yeah.
So I was like trying to look up like new digital skills. And one of those is actually like finding out how to create your own NFT. And it's so simple. So like that could be a thing. Like once I learn how to do that, that's the first thing I'm going to do then. Like,
I must tell you, I know that there are people who are all excited about NFTs, and I want to keep an open mind to this. We brought it up the other day, but I think it's such nonsense. It's a bubble. It's a whole lot of rich and stupid people who are saying that the digital version of something is worth more than an actual real world thing, and I just don't buy it. I'm not going to get in that. If you want to, go ahead. I don't want to start an argument with anybody who believes in NFT.
No, Gareth, I'm not going to let you get away with it because I know what's at work with you, especially having got I've got had the chance to get to know you a little bit in a professional sense. I know what your history that's going away, and now do you think it's driving at that for you because you love history, you love that part of things. And for that to go away now, I think that's hitting you in a place.
No, it's not. It's not the fear of loss. I think that if you gave me the chance to own one of the great masterpieces by one of the great artists of history of all time, and you gave me the world's most valuable NFT, it wouldn't even be a choice. I wouldn't even have to think twice. It would be an obvious thing to me to go for the real deal. The NFT you can have. I'd give it away. If you gave it to me and said, here's an NFT worth $5 million, I'd be selling it before you'd even finish the word dollars. Don't want it. Even if it's supposedly going to go up in value. It's not like crypto. I understand the idea behind cryptocurrency. I understand a lot of the stuff that people have been creating online businesses, for example. I get all of that. NFTs just, it feels to me like Paris Hilton the other day was talking about, I bought this NFT of this like monkey and it looks like me. And if Paris Hilton is keen on something, I'm not. That's usually my measure. And the minute she comes out as a big supporter of something, I'm like, I think I can do without that. Know what I mean?
I hear you. I think there's also it's iconoclastic as well. I can see why it would offend those who love.
It doesn't offend
me. It must
me.
Be a statue, and it must be the Catholic Church has to approve it before we walk in and touch it.
I'm not against NFTs. I'm just not going to be investing.
Really?
That's all. Yeah. You guys want to, you go. And if I miss out on this opportunity, too bad. There are other things that I consider more valuable and that I'm more interested in. If I had extra money lying around, which I don't, I wouldn't be spending it on NFTs. I would be buying some crypto. I'd be buying some property. I'd be buying some, bunch of different things. Gold. I'd be doing a whole lot of things. I'd diversify, but NFTs would not be in that bundle. Sorry. If that upsets some people, please don't fight with me. It's my money, not yours, even if it's hypothetical. You go and spend it on whatever you want.
Do you remember that advert with the uncles? When you said my money, do you remember the drunk uncle at like his daughter's 21st? It's my money. You people aren't going to tell me.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's very colloquial, parochial to South Africa. But when you said it's my money, I always you know, because I have like family like that, sort of older uncles. When you go to their house and they get on the sauce a bit, especially on the Xhosa side, because Xhosa people drink too much. But they'll tell you, yeah, it's my money. Nobody's gonna tell me anything in my house. So one of my uncles is like that.
Yeah. There's always, everyone has one of those people in their families, right? And when you get a call from them, you're like, oh, something terrible's happened or something's wrong, because you never usually hear from them.
Yeah.
And when
it's also that particular family member that you must never share good news, because they're also going to be the first to hit you up. Oh, you bought a new car. Yo, can I please get a lift? I need to go to Kai. And you're like, you never used to call me. Why are you here now? Oh, I just got a job. And then they'll call you on the 24th. Yeah, so I just wanted to know if you can borrow me 500, whatnot. Gee, 500. Why? No, I just, excuse me? I don't talk to you, dude. Okay, keep it moving. That family member, when they hear good news or they know you have money, they're gonna call you.
They don't go anywhere. So I've done something like this is a small thing, but it's one of those things that happens to a lot of us too. I got a new laptop last year sometime, and my old one is now being put in the Cliff Central pool, and I think Mbulelo is going to be using it. But we're trying to find the charger for this thing. Now, I'm pretty sure that when I gave it to Greg, I gave him the charger as well. And I've been looking around. You know when you just can't find something? And you search your whole house, you turn everything upside, you go into every drawer and every cupboard, and you go into every bag, and you look everywhere you can, and you try to find this thing. And I'm having no luck at all. And we're probably going to have to buy a new one, and they're expensive. You know, they don't cost like $5,000. So we've got to find a new one of these. But I know what's going to happen. As soon as we bought one, it's going to turn up, because that's usually what happens. So 3 weeks after we bought a new one, I'll go, oh, God, here it is. And it's not going to be for lack of trying. You know how when you look around and you cannot find something, and then as soon as you're not looking for it, it pops out. It's the opposite of the Hanan pink car theory. It's this idea that these things just crop up when you're not paying attention. And
it's the worst.
That is the worst. I mean, you end up spending money you don't need to spend. You end up driving yourself crazy, turning your whole house upside down, and then it all pitches up and you feel like an idiot at the end of it.
But you know what's even the kicker? It's where you find it. It's not going to be hidden like under the bed or no. It's going to be in such an obvious place. Like, why didn't I see it? It's been there all along. Like, what? Yeah. You were just on the table. I spent like 3 point something on a charger when you're on the table.
Have you ever lent a friend something and then you've forgotten that you lent it to them, and like 3 to 5 years later they give it back to you and you're like, oh, you were the one who had it? Well, Congo Chris has a very useful piece of information here. He says when you lend something to someone, take a photo of the person holding the object and put it. Isn't that a good idea? Doesn't that make sense?
It is in my life.
And then
it is an awesome idea, actually.
You create a little folder that says things I've lent people, and then you have pictures of all these people with the things you've lent them on this in this folder.
Great idea.
Good idea, right?
Yeah, great idea. I love it.
Look, Shame Cabello says I lost one of my AirPods. I felt miserable. Well, you lose just one. I mean, if you lose both, then you realize you got to buy a new one, and you were stupid. But to lose one is so much worse. You can't listen to things with just one, right?
Yeah.
Tiger DC says, was that charger not in your gym bag? The gym bag that was stolen by the morons who broke into the car last Thursday, and they got nothing but an old towel and a pair of shorts, and they got nothing, those stupid idiots. I went to the gym yesterday to just get my new card, and a new card is like 50-odd rand. But but it was cheaper than I thought it would be, because sometimes they'll charge you an outrageous amount just for a replacement card. So I was I was pleased. I was chuffed with that. Thought that's not so bad. I could do that. Let me quickly tell you about Beyond Madness today, which of course is a podcast series, which is really, really interesting. We've been playing out a couple of episodes of this. already, and last year we recorded a whole season. You don't want to miss today's episode of Beyond Madness, the daily struggles that we have in our lives. This is something all of us can understand. So Professor Dan Stein joins Prof. Christopher Paul Szabo to discuss the human condition and human suffering that we all experience, drawing on his most recently published book, which is called Problems of Living, Perspectives from Philosophy, Psychiatry, and Cognitive Affective Science. So this is stuff that doesn't necessarily involve those who have got serious mental illnesses, people who need prescription medication, some of the subject matter that they've discussed before. This is about the daily struggles all of us go through. Might give you a little bit of perspective, especially if you are feeling sorry for yourself at the moment. You don't want to miss Beyond Madness today on cliffcentral.com. Get a look at that. Very interesting series. All right, let's deal with one or two of these things quickly, because we've got a couple of headlines to get to too. But this is a good question. What would guys like to get, and what would they like to have from their girlfriends on Valentine's Day? Because we often refer to what the women want. Simphiwe wants to know, what are guys actually interested in for Valentine's Day? I'll go first.
Okay.
I don't have anybody I'm going to spend Valentine's Day with this year. But what I would like to is to just be left alone. You don't have to do anything for me for Valentine's Day. Don't bother me. I don't care about Valentine's Day. I'm happy to just be left alone. I might read a book. I might sleep. I might have a swim. I might ignore you completely. Is Valentine's Day on a weekend this year, or is it over a weekday? Let's just have a look quickly, because that makes a huge difference.
It's on a Monday. So for the first 2 hours of your day, you will be occupied. People will be in your space.
Right.
First 2 hours.
First 2 hours of the day we'll be here doing the show. But after that, just leave me alone. That's what I want for Valentine's Day. Anything that you'd like to add to that, Mbulelo?
No, I'm not really a Valentine.
With me,
I can't really beat what you've... I was just listening to you, meeting them. You did what Brutus had suggested. You met the barbarians at the gate there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jesus.
Oh, no.
You get these DMs. Sometimes it's people that you sort of know you maybe met once or twice. Sometimes it's people you've never met in your life before. Because everybody is famous online, right? There's no, just because I was well known on television and radio doesn't mean I get less activity on my social media than you do. I might get a little bit more, I might get a little bit less, I don't know. But the fact is, people will take a chance on Valentine's Day. They'll pluck up the courage. They'll be like, hey, happy Valentine's Day. That's not a good move for people like me. I'm like, oh God. All messages, let's just mark them as read, and let's get on with our day. Don't pay attention to that shit. Not me.
Okay.
Yeah, they're hoping you've been swept up. Kind of like at a wedding, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, not going to happen. Yes, there are those professional wedding attendees who try to hook up at weddings. Yes, good point.
Yeah,
it's like that. Sure. It's exactly what it is. So no, just leave me alone. Valentine's Day is not my favorite day. It's not my worst day. I don't care. It's just a day I'd like to be left alone. Leave me. What did Greta Garbo say? I want to be alone.
All right, Gareth, I think you shall definitely get that. Mbulelo, are you also just wanting to be left alone? No DMs, no, hey boo, hey sexy, hey Mr. 10% body fat, like nothing?
No, I just think I'm too old now for that. Like, it would be awesome at like 27 to get something where I needed, like, I am what I am now. I am mediocrity. This is what I am. There's very little you can give me. I already live kind of where I want to live. Like, I have the stuff I want. If you're a girl and I want to see you, I rarely get to see the types of girls I want. What could someone offer me now? Like, unless you are, like Roman Abramovich's daughter. I'm not sure.
Poor Simphiwe. She's asking a question that almost any normal human being, any normal person, like a card, or how about a nice lunch or dinner? Those would be what normal people would say, but she's stuck with you and me, Mbulelo, this morning, and it's not the right target market for her question.
Yeah. Are you asking for single guys or for guys in relationships, Simphiwe?
No, I was just asking guys in general, because I think the whole marketing of Valentine's Day is always directed towards women. You walk into the store and everything is for the lady. And it got me thinking to say, okay, if I did want to celebrate this day and I did want to get a potential crush or a boyfriend, what would I get him that would, make him also be like, damn, okay, girl, you really got me something nice. And that's where it comes from. But you guys did not help because all you want is to be left alone. Like,
sorry. We're the wrong people to ask, but there are probably some very good answers from people who are listening to us this morning. Here we go. This is nice. Basitsana says, my brother says men want a blowjob and good food. Klar.
That's true. That's true. I told so many ladies that.
Dogozo says I could use a new watch.
But what kind of watch? That's not specific enough. Like, come on. Are you looking for a Daniel Wellington watch, Tom Ford? Like, what are we looking at? Like, come on now. You need to be specific as well. That's like, if you want to get something in life, you need to be specific. That's the trick to it as well.
Like, probably going to be some unrealistic thing, like a Patek Philippe. You don't ask those questions. You're going to get answers you don't want either. Oh no! Here's some interesting info from Tsepo. Tsepo's full of info this morning. Load shedding back today as at 11 o'clock, stage 2. I'm surprised we made it to February without load shedding. Well, we didn't, because here it is. It's back to annoy us today.
It's because they signed that 11 billion rand deal. And they're like, okay.
Maybe they should use the 11 billion to get covers for the coal, so the coal doesn't get wet. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, sorry. But either way, it's going into Mr. Vilagazi's bank account, so let's not try even make plans with that money for the benefit of this country. Let's not.
Snaye says, listen to this. In 2019, I went to Pick and Pay after work to see what men buy on Valentine's Day. All the white men walked out with roses and chocolates. The black guys walked out with bread and milk.
Oh my gosh. Oh my.
Dogoza says, I've already started preparing my girlfriend to expect nothing on Valentine's Day. Oh, you sound like such a romantic, Dogoza. That's so nice. Your girlfriend must be so thrilled she made that decision to be with you.
But maybe he's 6 years into the relationship, guys. You can't.
That's when you have to make the effort. In the beginning,
really?
It's easy. Yeah, you still love each other in the beginning. It's obvious you do. Honeymoon period, right? First year, maybe. Everything's great. You don't need to be doing all the romantic gestures. When it really counts is when it starts to become normal, becomes expected, it becomes boring, it becomes what people think is going to happen. And then you upset the apple cart by doing something romantic in your, it's the 3rd or 6th or 8th year. And then the partner's like, wow, this is amazing. This guy or this girl is phenomenal. They're so thoughtful. This is so romantic. It's so lovely. Yeah, you do the romantic thing in the first 3 months of the relationship. They're like, oh, well, that's nice, but I'm already in love. You don't need to put the effort in the beginning. Don't you think?
True, but also you're competing with Twitter and social media. And I'm not saying do something really cute for the socials, but your partner is going to be on social media and they're going to be seeing everybody get the roses and the human-sized teddy bear. And they're going to see like other people show their partner love and affection. And even if she was okay with it, deep down, she's going to get home and is like, okay, I hope he bought me something, like even chocolate, so do something, even if it's very small, like getting her favorite chocolate, favorite meal, do something. Because I promise you, when she sees those tweets, she's also going to be like, this guy
while you're bringing that up, I mean, these days people expect a party for everything. So apparently Rihanna announced that she's pregnant the other day, and now South Africa has started arranging reveal parties here where they can charge money for Rihanna fans to come and be part of the reveal. Is this a thing?
Guys, the invite is out. You can pay. Like, people, South Africans, they don't waste time, eh? Like, we found out, I think, a day or 2 ago that our girl's pregnant, and you can now go to the reveal party.
No. You are kidding. The BK Lifestyle Cafe presents Rihanna's pregnancy reveal party this Tuesday. Oh my God. That was yesterday? But it's got the date. It's got the dates. That was yesterday.
There was, but I'm just, what?
And
That's
it's
not
50
real,
rand.
guys.
It's 50 rand a person, so you can go along to a reveal party. By the way, Rihanna's not going to be there. I hate to break it to the people who paid their 50 rand, but Rihanna's not going to be there for the reveal. You're going to have to just watch it on TV like everyone at home without paying 50 rand.
But is that what's happening? Are they streaming Rihanna's reveal?
All they did was take a picture of Rihanna's it's a picture of Rihanna because she told us that she's pregnant. And then like literally a couple of hours later, people were like, reveal party, Rihanna will tell you, the gender of the baby. Hey, hey, hey. And it's just like, hold up. Does even Rihanna know about this? Does she even know that there's going to be a reveal party about her baby? Like South Africans, y'all don't waste time. Like honestly, don't waste time.
So what's the story here? Is she a baby mama or is she booed up or what's the vibe there?
So Rihanna's dating ASAP Ferg, I think. Yeah, ASAP Ferg or ASAP Rocky, one of these rappers. ASAP Rocky, one of these hip hop rappers. They've been together for a minute now, and they posted pictures online of her belly and them walking together, and she's pregnant at the tender age of 33, which is really amazing. She's expecting her first child, and everybody's excited, everybody's happy. And then after she announced, social media did its thing. There's reveal parties now in South Africa, and we're just like, damn, guys, y'all know how to make money.
Well, clever them, because if you're dumb enough to go to a Rihanna reveal party where she's not going to be, and that's what you build your party around, that's cool. We're talking about Valentine's Day, which is totally made up. So how's it any different?
Yeah, well said.
How's it any different? Like if you're going to be buying things and doing things for Valentine's Day, how's that any different to the arbitrary party that someone's going to have for Rihanna's reveal of her pregnancy? It's the same thing to me. It's exactly as useful as the one is as useful as the other, don't you think?
So
I'm just shocked at how fast they planned it. That's where I'm like, wow, guys, we were still digesting this news, and then a poster even. They had the venue sorted, the price sorted. Hey, shout out to them, South Africans. You guys don't waste time.
So for me, I'm a little bit weirded out by people who have children out of wedlock, and I'm not even one for marriage. So is anybody saying anything about that? Or because this whole thing of people having kids with their boyfriends is such a big problem in South Africa, but are we just overlooking it because it's Rihanna and she has lots of money?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
people don't care about that stuff generally, though, Mbulelo. It's not such a big deal anymore.
Although it's weird because we know what happens. Like children put stress on relationships and boyfriends and girlfriends break up. It's weird to me.
But I mean, I get where you're coming from, because I was brought up to also have this whole, you don't do a fat and set, so you don't move in with your boyfriend before you guys are married. And then also having a kid out of wedlock is a big taboo. Like it's a very big taboo. But we also live in that culture where people are like, I want to do what I want to do. We are life partners. And if we have a kid, it's okay because we have chosen each other and we are life partners. So if she's happy with it, I can't judge her. I'm not Rihanna. I don't have R1 billion to my name. So either way, whether the guy is there or not, that kid is set for life. So all we can do is be happy for her. And
but life. But
life.
There's no way I couldn't do that. Sorry.
Case closed. We're done.
That is awesome.
All right.
Oh man.
Very, very, very important question here from Basitsana. Has Drake confirmed he'll be at Konka?
Guys. But he's not coming, guys. Especially now that he's found out that Rihanna's pregnant. I think he's going to be listening to his own Take Care album, Marvin's Room. And he's not okay, guys. We just need to just check up on Drake. He's also someone that's not doing okay after finding out that the girl of his dreams is pregnant. Sad.
Oh, well, he'll get over it eventually.
He'll be fine. Yeah,
he'll make it. He'll cry himself to sleep on that pillow of money that he's got.
Yeah.
It must be nice. Anyway, so listen, we've got Blind History coming up in a moment. This is a hell of an episode. It's something people like the villains for some. I don't think they like the villains. They like to hear about the villains. And today we've got an arch villain. I mean, he's got to be one of history's most revolting people, and someone who has left a disgustingly glaring crater in the face of humanity. A person who was just extraordinarily weird from top to bottom. The whole story of this guy is just upsetting and bizarre. And he was clever, but he was also evil. There are no two ways about it. He was ruthlessly efficient. He was the kind of guy who you would want like running the stationery drawer of your company, but put him in charge of people and it's just an absolute disaster because he's a psychopath from top to bottom. And people love to hear about the worst people in history. So we've got an episode on one of those really terrible people today. And it's no less than Heinrich Himmler, who was Hitler's 2IC, and somebody who, if you lived at any time where Himmler wasn't alive, you can consider yourself lucky. But it's one of our most popular people in terms of the votes that people have been casting in episodes they want to hear. So not popular in terms of people like him, but people want to hear about him. He is Heinrich Himmler, Reichsführer SS, and one of the henchmen who made the whole Nazi machine work. Here he is for a brand new episode of Blind History, which is brought to you, of course, by Taylor Blinds and Shutters. If you have anything going on in your house that you need to think about windows, doors, security, just redo them, make them look fresh, make the room look better. You know, I was impressed the other day. We had one of our guests on the show, and I could see these beautiful shutters behind them in the picture. That does make everything a little bit smarter and a whole lot more attractive. And if you want to talk to people who can really do a good job, talk to the guys at Taylor Blinds and Shutters. I have, Mbulelo has. They really know what they're doing. It is time for Blind History, episode number 8 in season 6. Take a look at this. Captain Thomas Sylvester began the routine interrogation of a prisoner who had been caught wandering around Neuhaus. Without flinching, the nondescript, bespectacled man admitted he was Germany's Reichsführer and architect of the Nazi death camps. Heinrich Himmler. He was immediately taken to a doctor who attempted to examine the inside of Himmler's mouth, but the prisoner was reluctant to open it. He jerked his head away, and before anything could be done to stop him, Himmler bit into a hidden potassium cyanide pill and collapsed. He was dead within 15 minutes. Shortly afterward, his body was buried in an unmarked grave near Lüneburg. The exact location remains unknown. Well, we were bound to get to some of the worst people who somehow accumulated the most power and did the most damage. And one of those people, without doubt, is Heinrich Leutpolt Himmler. He was, of course, Germany's Reichsführer, and he was the head of the SS, as well as a leading member of the Nazi Party. And for a while, he was probably Hitler's 2IC. And certainly in some respects, he outdid the Führer. And those are the things that we'll talk about in this episode of Blind History. It's good to have Anthony Miedere here with me. This is really an unpalatably horrible human.
Yeah, he's an absolute piece of shit. You know, it's they should have put him down when he was a student under his father. But, you know, when we talk about that period, I might have mentioned it before, but, you know, my dad was born in 1937 in Germany, effectively 2 years before the Second World War. And my dad's father was killed in the Second World War. So often, you know, when we brought up in South Africa, you know, it's an ex-British colony, all of that. But we always saw it from the German side. And when I did speak to my dad about it, he said very, very little. I think that for the German population and that, they just don't like to talk about it. It's just horrible what everybody went through during that time. Yeah, it's part of our own family history. You know, my uncle got a Reichmark from Adolf Hitler when he was younger. The family came from just outside Nuremberg, which was a real stronghold for the Nazi Party. And a lot of times, you know, they saw that this Adolf Hitler and his crew were actually making big strides to improve Germany after what they called the shackles of Versailles. So after the First World War, they basically strung Germany down. From an economy perspective, they didn't give them any opportunities. And I suppose that Hitler and his crew were seen originally as salvation, but boy, did that turn out 100% wrong.
Well, Himmler's a good example of this because he grew up without any, giveaway signs that he was a complete psychopath. He grew up in a nice family. His father was a tutor to the prince of Bavaria. He grew up in Munich. He was a good student. He worked very hard. They didn't have a lot of money, but he seemed like a humble guy. His father raised him to believe a couple of things that were good. He was raised as a strict Catholic, and he said things like he wrote in his diary that he would never give up on the church or on God. That obviously, with the story of his life as it unfolded, was untrue. But his father also imbued him with a sense that Germans were superior, racially superior, that they had earned their place in history, and that he came from a family and from a nation of people who had done amazing things. Of course, that can give you pride, but it can also give you a false sense of superiority. And it's clear which one Himmler grew up with.
Yeah, agreed. And if you look at it, he enjoyed chess, the harpsichord, stamp collecting, gardening,
and he had glasses.
He had glasses. Pol Pot would have killed him.
He and the following episode's chief protagonist have one thing in common. They eventually ended up being really, really good at figuring out the most efficient way to kill people. And we're not talking about war. We're talking about actual genocide. We're talking about finding a group of people and killing them as quickly, as effectively as possible. And he had, he had compatriots in that, like Heinrich. But let's go back to the beginning of his story, because in the beginning, he wanted to become a farmer. I mean, he was actively interested in farming. He even wanted to emigrate at one point because he didn't like the way Germany was headed. But luckily or unluckily for history, he discovered the Nazi Party, mostly because he was unemployed, which I think was probably true for a lot of people. So he joined the Nazi Party, and he was actually one of the main supporters of a guy who was trying to oust Hitler at that point, because Hitler was in jail, obviously. And he spent a lot of time working really hard, proving himself as an efficient administrator. On his motorbike, he would ride around giving inflammatory speeches. He was by no means, a boring individual or someone that you wouldn't have taken notice of. But obviously, upon reading Mein Kampf, he decided that he'd found the leader he really wanted to follow, and became insanely devoted to Hitler from that point on. And his loyalty, almost unquestionably, to the just about before the very end was right up there. Hitler knew he could depend on this guy, right?
Yeah, and I think Hitler called him Loyal Heinrich because of his complete devotion with him. But as he grew up, there were quite a few disappointments in his life, and one of them was actually this push from Hitler that tried to take over the government. As you rightly mentioned, he was thrown in jail, but he lost his job and he had to move back with his parents. He was disappointed that his parents didn't have money because he couldn't do his post-grad in agriculture. So he seemed to have a lot of disappointments going through his life. And he was also hated in school because he used to rat on his friends because his father was in charge.
Yeah.
So he wasn't very well liked. And I think just generally he had a very poor relationship family-wise. He had virtually no relationship with his son. He had a good relationship with his daughter because she was as psychotic as he was. But ultimately, in the end, he was this cold, emotionless person.
What do we know about his wife?
His wife had a very keen interest, obviously, in the Nazi Party and the way they thought, together with their daughter. And on his passing away, they were initially undercover, very much supported of trying to rebuild some sort of new regime, which never ever took off. But ultimately, he didn't really care about her. So I'm not sure how she reacted to it, because he had a mistress, and he had a completely separate life with a mistress where he had an illegitimate child. as well.
Well, it's interesting that he also used to tell his soldiers, and part of the plan with the SS was to recruit these ethnically pure, superior men. He would look at the photographs of every single person they recruited to the SS, and if he picked up any defect, they would be thrown out. And his job there, he said, was to restock the Aryan nation, to restock German purity, blood purity, by forcing these SS men to have children with as many women as they could find. Obviously also superior German women, but essentially monogamy was not necessary. It wasn't an important thing. So this tells you something about his own standards for his poor wife, Margareta, right? And he did have kids. He had Gudrun, Helga, and Nanette, and not the greatest father, as you mentioned earlier, but certainly not among the worst in that respect, because you would think that he would be terrible everywhere and equally. But, someone who tends to his garden, likes to play the harpsichord, but also is okay with offing 6 million people just because he doesn't agree with their ethnicity. Not exactly a solid human being, this.
And actually, as I mentioned a bit earlier, I mean, he was quite far from the Aryan race. I mean, he struggled to keep up in the army. He wanted to be a soldier, but he never made it. So he was quite a weak, made of weak constitution, let's say. And, he
would have been disappointed in his own application if it had passed over his desk.
Definitely. And then he developed like a mythical ethos of folklore of the German race going back many, many centuries. And he brought that to, and then a lot of dark magic,
occult stuff,
all those type of things that he brought into, and many of the Nazis, actually, for that matter, were like that.
Yeah, he enjoyed and employed all of these elements in trying to create this fiction that the Germans were superior to everyone else, and used a lot of esoteric symbolism. There were rituals. The SS was kind of a quasi-religious organization, as much as it was this extraordinarily efficient and very, very dangerous Gestapo military and police tool. And the SS started off under him. He took it from being a very, very small organization, like, a couple of hundred people, into a 1 million strong paramilitary group. And they, of course, controlled the concentration camps, which will forever go down as one of the most dishonorable things to have been committed by human beings. But he was absolutely efficient and ruled everything with an iron fist. He had direct lines of communication. He was informed about everything. He knew exactly what was going on and where and how. And supposedly when he gave the orders to implement the final solution, chose Auschwitz as the perfect example of what one of these concentration camps should be. He visited there once or twice, and he actually watched as they sifted through the people who arrived on the trains. The weaker ones were obviously immediately killed, sent straight to the gas chambers. The stronger ones were put to work and would die of exhaustion or worse. But he went and looked through a little keyhole as they gassed a number of the people who'd just been taken off the train and were weak, and totally unemotional said, look, actually, I don't care how you guys do it. Just get it done.
Hitler didn't actually visit the concentration camps, whereas Himmler constantly visited them. And, there's some horrible photographs, and that just gives you an idea of this psychotic individual walking next to these emaciated people. They look like skeletons. And in the beginning, it was just inefficient. He was a bureaucrat through and through, and he pushed these people hard to keep records, etc. And he set quotas for the concentration camps of how many people you need to kill every day, and every month you need to keep up with the quotas. And when it started getting inefficient, and he said it was very, very hard for the executioners, they brought in the gas chambers as a more efficient way of achieving their goals. 11 to 14 million people ultimately in the end.
You hear about businesses and how you have targets that you have to reach in terms of profits and maybe bringing down costs. And that he applied that kind of, I suppose, balance sheet to human lives. It's just extraordinary to think that this was all going on. And he was completely unemotional about it. He obviously started off with this SS group. Then he built up the Einsatzgruppen, and he built these extermination camps. It was all his brainchild. He also took over eventually the German police, the Gestapo, the secret state police, and controlled the Waffen-SS, which is a military branch of the SS. He was a very powerful man in Germany in the 1940s. I mean, early 1940s, late 1930s. People said that he was basically Hitler's 2IC. And there were others who were vying for that position, you know, people like Goering and people like Goebbels, perhaps, and others in the military. But he also ruthlessly had anyone who had seen a different side of him or anyone who had anything on him taken out as well. I mean, Ernst Röhm, who was the chief of the Sturmabteilung, the SA, he just had him killed after the Night of the Long Knives. You know, they basically, he went in and eviscerated any enemies of Hitler's, but also conveniently any enemies of his own, and took over all of those jobs as well.
So he eliminated what they called the brown shirts.
Not a problem for him to just take them out. You know, if they were a problem for him and problem for Hitler, then they needed to go.
Exactly, 100%. And then he brought in his black-shirted SS that came in, and you know, that's what we see in those massive marches and that. You got these black shirts. They brought absolute fear.
Because of the issue of the concentration camps and the Jews in particular, a lot of people wonder whether he was anti-Semitic from the start. And there's no real evidence of that. But there were a lot of people putting pamphlets out all over Germany, blaming the Jews for all the things that they didn't like about Germany post-World War I. And there was a lot of propaganda to which he must have been susceptible. He certainly took in a lot of it. He read everything voraciously. And I think it also suited him to be able to blame the Jews rather than let his ideas of racial superiority fall by the wayside. And of course, he personally, therefore, is given the ignominy, the dishonor of being the man who made the decision to take out some 6 million Jews, between 200 and 500,000 Romani people, gypsies, and other victims. The total number of civilians you mentioned earlier, between 11 and 14 million people. Those are civilians. You know, we're not talking about the ones that were taken out in war by the SS, the Waffen-SS, for example. And he was, for a little while, a military commander too. Hitler appointed him as the commander of the replacement army. And he did so badly in that job. He was meant to be in charge of the army group Upper Rhine and the group Vistula. And after he failed to achieve any of that, Hitler just replaced him in those posts.
Yeah, he was very, very poor taking over the army. That's clearly not something that he should have stuck to chicken farming. I wish he would have stuck to chicken farming right at the beginning, because apparently he was quite a good chicken farmer. So if the word has it. But ultimately, in the end, yes, so that's when it started unraveling, because he saw what was coming. And he realized now they were up against it. So then he started engaging first with the Soviets in the north, and then later on with Americans under Eisenhower. And none of them wanted anything to do with him. And then Hitler heard about it.
Just to add before that, because his idea was, like, he could see it all falling apart. And by then Hitler had become a bit of a madman. And there was no way that they could win this war. So Himmler made the decision that he was going to approach the Allies in various ways and essentially promised them a surrender on the Western Front, which would have obviously saved millions of lives. But he wasn't necessarily in a position to be able to do that. And he did this all behind Hitler's back. And as we know, Hitler did not take kindly to someone plotting against him. We know this because obviously in North Africa, we had this brilliant general who had decided against all the advice to plot against Hitler and put a bomb in his bunker, essentially, while he was busy making the plans for part of the Russian campaign. And Hitler mercilessly descended on all the plotters and took them out at the knees without even a second thought to whether or not they were useful to him. If you were disloyal in his book, that counted against you in every way. And Hitler was particularly fond of Himmler because of his loyalty. So you can imagine how poorly he reacted to hearing the news on British radio, of all places, that Himmler was trying to contact the Allies to make a deal.
What was interesting, though, is that he got away with it, so to speak, because he sort of headed for the hills. And this was literally one day before Hitler committed suicide. And then he was drifting around aimlessly. He had all false documents. He shaved off his mustache. And it worked against him because nobody actually had perfect papers at the time. So they brought him in for questioning, and then they realized who they'd actually caught. But like many of the top echelon of the Nazis, they had cyanide in one of their teeth that they just bit into, and he committed suicide.
I always wonder about that. You know, these top Nazis were all given this poison that they could break this little ampule, and then the poison would go into their system and they'd die very quickly. And all of them said yes to this. I always wonder, like, what if they were chewing on something by mistake and broke the capsule? You know, you'd have to chew very, very carefully. But nonetheless, what you say is absolutely right. He was wandering around with his bodyguards, and he said, "No, my name is Heinrich something close to that," and they didn't think anything. But while he was in the prisoner of war camp, being treated just like the other prisoners, he obviously got a little bit annoyed because he was full of himself, and you know he was important. He was Heinrich Himmler, so he demanded to speak to the authorities in the prisoner of war camp, and then announced that he was Heinrich Himmler, and they didn't give him special treatment. They stripped him naked, checked him for poison, started to process him as a special case, and that was about the time we realized the gig was up, and he had to bite into this capsule of cyanide, and he died within, I think, 12 minutes, even though they tried their best to revive him because they wanted to put him on trial. You know, they didn't keep him alive because they were trying to save the guy. They wanted to put him on trial along with Goring and the others at the Nuremberg trials.
Yeah, and I think it was important. He needed to pay for all the atrocities, but at least that part of it, the wheel turned, because he was stripped naked, like you said. He at least had a small part of what he did to millions and billions. It's 100% right. He's probably one of the most studied person from a psychological perspective since then, to work out what the hell went wrong with him. You know, his parents were maybe a little bit more strict than normal parents, but we don't know what was said behind closed doors. But somebody that liked chess and the harpsichord and a little bit of tinkering in the garden could be this horrible human being.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of interest there, and obviously people are also interested in exactly how he managed to persuade so many Germans, particularly in the SS, but everywhere else in society as well, that they were on some moral crusade, that they were doing something good. And there's been a lot written recently about how, there's this idea that you can actually confuse an entire population. You can create a mass psychosis. And if any example in history serves as an example of this, then it has to be the way that the entire German population was mobilized against not only the enemy ally nations, but also civilians, Jews, people with disabilities, people who just didn't fit into the Nazi picture of what was a utopia they would never achieve. And certainly all of the designs around the SS were all personally put together by Himmler. He had a very good eye for propaganda, for messaging, and for keeping that story, that narrative of German superiority alive. A very, very scary human being, and certainly not someone who we wish to have reappear in history later on. Although there are examples, as you will see in the next episode of Blind History, of people millions of miles away who were just as evil and did just as much damage without an inkling of a conscience.
But I think as well, you answered a lot of questions on psychology, because he said once saying that if Hitler were to tell him to shoot his mother, he would do it and be proud of the Führer's confidence. So this unconditional loyalty was one of the driving forces, surely. I thought he thought of Hitler as some kind of god.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because Hitler described his treachery in that last week of his life when he was in the bunker in Berlin, and he heard about what Himmler was doing, plotting against him. He called it the greatest betrayal in history, Hitler, because he was so convinced that Himmler was on his side every step of the way. So he was genuinely upset and offended, and probably very angry, knowing the little man, about Himmler's ultimate treachery and betrayal.
Yeah. But they were toast. I don't know what difference it made.
made no difference. Himmler even had a meeting with Admiral Karl Dönitz, who was Hitler's successor and the second Führer, second and last Führer of that Reich. And he said, "I'll help you if you make me 2 IC." And Dönitz said, "Nah, you know what? Don't worry about it. I think I'll do without you." Which was probably a good decision too.
It was probably 100%, although that didn't last very long anyway.
No, but at least Dönitz got away with life in prison, whereas Himmler, of course, was dead.
Yeah. When you unpack and you go into more detail, there's just so much more below the surface. Like him and his mistress sitting drinking tea in their office or wherever it was with cutlery made from bones and the books put together with human skin. It's just absolutely frightening.
Historian Wolfgang Sauer says that although Himmler was pedantic, dogmatic, and dull, he emerged under Hitler as second in actual power, and his strength, according to most of these historians, lay in a combination of unusual shrewdness, burning ambition, and this loyalty that we speak about, this servile loyalty to Hitler.
And sadism. He was sadistic to the end.
Yeah. Well, there are lots of other people that we can associate with him, but I think after Hitler, he's probably the most interesting to those of us who are curious about the worst people in history. This guy gets into that category without even trying.
The world's greatest mass murderer.
Himmler, what a son of a bitch. Blind History is brought to you by Taylor Blinds and Shutters. All the episodes are available on the cliffcentral.com website and app, as well as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Everywhere he went during his career, he had little gardens, and he used to tend to them himself. And he had this whole story about the Germans must go back to nature. You know, while he's reading a book with the leather made out of the skull of one of his victims.